So I'm just going to start with the base coat, and this is Grey Gardens. Pretty great color, almost has a little bit of a violety undertone to it. So I'm just going to take a Llewellyn brush, and we're just going to paint a nice light coat on here just to get a nice base color. And this is just an old canvas I've had sitting around for a while, so it's not the most tightly stretched canvas. It's been kind of abused, so that's why I thought it would be a good thing to put texture on, since we're not really worried about protecting the integrity of the way the canvas is shaped. Just get a nice light coat on here. And this is the Llewellyn brush that I'm using. It's great for blending on furniture if you have a large canvas. Make sure we have this all covered nicely. Okay, so we got that all covered with our Grey Gardens. Now we're going to blend in a little bit of our metallics. We're going to use Steampunk and Starboy. We're going to start with our Steampunk. I'm just going to put a little bit out here on my tinfoil. And Steampunk is a kind of a steel gray, but it also has pretty significant purple undertone to it. Can you guys see? It almost looks violet on the camera. Really pretty color. And these are super pigmented, have lots of mica and lots of pigment in them. Gonna start kind of blending this in and kind of down in a downward pattern, kind of like we're gonna have those drippies on it here. Get a little bit more of the Grey Gardens. A little darker than I like. Back in. Get rid of some of that dark undertone. So I added just a little bit of shimmer with that dark color. I might add a little bit more here at the top. Gradient of color here. You guys can see the difference here. It's pretty well blended. It's harder to see, but it's a little bit lighter there at the bottom than at the top. So we're just going to keep adding a little bit here and there until I get the contrast that I'm wanting without making it too crazy of a blend. And so you kind of, for this too, you want it to have fairly straight strokes in it too. Sometimes you could actually take like a straight rule and make sure that your brush is going in a nice straight line. Just gonna leave that, and then we're gonna add in a little bit of our, I'll blend it at the bottom a little bit more with some of our Grey Gardens here in a minute. Once it dries just a little bit. It's a little super wet right now. So I'm putting some of our Starboy out on our tinfoil palette here. It's been pretty gorgeous the last couple days. So I'm just adding a little bit of that Starboy in. We're just going to kind of blend all of it together here. Hopefully when it dries we'll get a lot of that shimmer coming through. I almost want like streaks going through it, because with our bead gel, sorry, I'm trying to use the camera to see, it's hard to see it upside down. we'll use some of our bead gel and make the streaks up and down. For those of you who missed it at the beginning, I'm going to show you kind of our inspiration board. This one I just did with a basic Grey Gardens, but I wanted to add some shimmer to it, so I added some of the 2 metallic Steampunk and Starboy in. But this is bead gel, kind of in like a little waterfall type effect, coming down. And then we're going to add in a little bit of glitter glass to make it super shiny. So if you look at from this side, look at it, you can see, can you see how the light's reflecting off each one of those little beads? And then if you turn it a little bit differently, you're going to see a sparkle here and there, and that's the glass glitter that I added into it. And then at the very top, I'll get a little bit closer, added in some foil pieces that I had left over from a project that I worked on last week. So we're going to add all those in here at the end so you can kind of see what's going on, and hopefully we'll have some pretty little piece we can add in on our wall. It's a nice decorative piece. You know, you could do this on the side of a piece of furniture if you wanted to. And I'm just grabbing a chip brush. I love chip brushes. I kind of like the texture they give. So just giving it a little extra texture here. And none of that is straight. Get it to straighten out here. Straighter lines maybe. Hey Mary Ellen, how are you? Good morning. The only bad thing about the chip brushes, if you don't condition them before you use them, you end up with all kinds of hairs all over the place. So I would recommend rinsing them out and conditioning them and trying to pull out all the loose fibers. Okay, so here is our Grey Gardens, topped with some Steampunk and Starboy. And I'm actually going to add just a little bit extra of the Starboy in with our chip brush. See if we can get it to be just a little bit more streaky without being too crazy. There we go. I'm just trying to kind of make even lines, get it all kind of blended, all the big, huge chip brush hairs out. Okay, so we got a little bit of color streaking and a little bit of difference there. You can see it if I turn it at an angle a little bit better. Just a little bit of a gradient here and there. So I'm going to do the same thing with Starboy, because Starboy is super shiny. Make sure it's all mixed up, because the metallics are very, they have a lot of mica in them, so you want to make sure you shake them really, really well, because you want to make sure all that mica gets mixed up in our paint before we use it. Because there's no use using a metallic if you're not going to have some of that sparkle. At least that's my theory. Just going to add a little bit here and there. And then I'm going to take it, I'm going to blend all the way up. Try to get as straight lines as I can. Okay. There we go. Got it. Now I'm going to put it back down by running my brush back over it. No. That's the way it is. Okay. So you can kind of see when I tilt it up, we've got little color variations. I'm going to hit this with just a little bit of heat, so you guys may hear a little bit of noise. If that noise bothers you, you might want to mute it for just a second. dry enough. We'll let the bottom dry on its own, but you can see kind of the contrast with a little bit of the different shimmers on there. And that part's still wet there at the bottom, but you can see some of the metallic coming through at the top. Bead gel. This one in particular is from Redesign with Prima. It's a thick gel. It's almost like, it's a thick gel medium. It's almost like, I don't know if you guys have ever used their decoupage medium. It's similar to that. It's just a real thick, super thick medium, and it's got these little tiny glass beads in it. Okay. So they kind of reflect the light, give you some fun texture. So I'm just going to take some of this out. We're going to plop it in our cup here. Okay, so there's the bead gel. Let me get the rest of this off my knife here. Now the medium that this bead gel is actually a gloss. So see how glossy that is? So you'll want to cover this with probably some type of gloss top coat when you're finished. So, hot tip for bead gel. When you're using bead gel, you can mix up to 10% water in them. So just take and mix it with some water, and that will thin it out a little bit. Furniture. A lot of people use this through stencils, the bead gel through stencils. It looks really pretty. You can put it on in a thick, even coat, and that'll give you kind of the whole idea of like a thick glass layer over the top. It's really pretty also. But this way, I kind of like this. So we're going to make it streaky, like it's dripping. So I thinned it down, and by thinning it down, you guys can see it's a little bit thinner consistency. It's not quite as thick as it was before, but it's still fairly thick. You don't want to get it watery because that kind of defeats the whole purpose. So we're going to take this and we're going to spread it on our board. And of course you'll want your bottom layers to completely dry before you do this, which I didn't, but we'll see what happens. There we go. Okay. So I'm just taking, you could take a credit card, you could take a spatula of any kind. I'm just taking a little trowel spatula here. Put it on here at the top. And then I'm just going to kind of drag it down. And my goal on this is I want it to look kind of like it's dripping. I don't necessarily want it to be, that's a super chunky piece. Don't use that super chunk. That wants to be drippy there too. Man, I got in some really chunky stuff from my lid there. I found too that it's a little easier to apply this. I found for just me. I'm kind of a big fan of chip brushes, if you haven't been able to tell, but I just load it up on my chip brush. And I'm gonna kind of just streak it down. And it looks a little bit more organic that way too. Gel has really become thick and unusable. I got it from around the top of the jar, unfortunately. Okay. gel in here. Looks kind of drippy. I'll probably add more to this once that bottom part dries. It's just really wet right now. But another thing that I like to do too is I like to take a spatula or something flat and just kind of go and smooth it down and make sure those beads are all flat on the canvas. That helps eliminate a lot of excess buildup. It's going to help that be nice and flat so it dries evenly. Get a nice flat layer. My paint up on that one was a little too aggressive there. Okay, just push it back down flat. See how I just kind of pushed that down, made it flat. And then you kind of continue that down. I'll probably add some more, like in this area on one side. Maybe make it a little splotchy like it's dripping. So now for some more, even more fun. Okay, so see how that's white, kind of a creamy white? That's the bead gel. That's the medium that the beads are in. So as it dries, it will become clear. As you can see here, becomes clear. And so it's kind of hard to see the beads unless you do different angles, things like that. But we're gonna add in just a little extra, because why not? We are gonna add in some German glass glitter. And this is silver glass glitter, so it's glitter, but it's made from crushed glass. So I'm just going to take some, we're going to add just a little bit here and there, just to give it a little extra sparkle. And then you can take your same palette knife, wipe it off on your pants. And then you can kind of push that in too and make sure that it adheres down to that medium that it's on top of. Kind of push that in a little bit, just to make sure your glitter stays in place. And so, try and turn it so you guys can see the glitter. So now you can kind of, as I turn it, you can see more of a sparkle. There it is up at the top. Do you see that there? You're getting quite a bit more sparkle by adding just a little bit of that glass to it. We're going to add a little more. More is more, right? And as you can see, I'm not using a whole lot of this, just a couple pinches here and there. So you don't need a huge, big jar of glass glitter, just to give it a little bit of extra sparkle and shine and texture. But wouldn't that be pretty, like on the side of a dresser or as an art piece? So we add a little bit more glitter. You can see it glitter as we turn it here. And then let's go one step further, because chunky pieces of bead gel there real quick. So we're gonna go one step further. So the other day I was doing silver leafing. So this is just metal leaf that I put on paint. And so it's for my booth, just to show people what it looks like when you leaf something, okay? So so when we were doing the leaf the other day, when I showed you how I kind of save all those little pieces, I said you can use it in mixed media. Here you go. So all these tiny little pieces and some chip brush hairs. All these tiny little pieces could be incorporated, okay? So I'm just gonna kind of have a mind of their own. I'm just gonna kind of sprinkle them on, and you can kind of give them a little tap, get them to stick. There's some bigger pieces and some smaller pieces. My spatula again and kind of just tap those in so they become adhered down to the surface. those bigger pieces of silver leaf that are in there at the top. Isn't that going to be pretty? I mean, look at all that sparkle and shimmer. That's such an easy wall hang you can make. Just an old canvas that you have, paint it, throw some glass bead gel on it, throw some glitter on, glitter glass. I'm not a big fan of glitter, but glass glitter works great because it's a little bit heavier and denser, so it doesn't just go everywhere when you put it on. Hold on, we're gonna add another color. We're gonna add pink. And this is just kind of a pinky rose color. That's a little extra. And this one's just a little bit more fine than the other one I put on. You can see, literally this is just 2 pinches. That's all I put on there. So you don't need a lot of it. That will last a long time. So I'm gonna do our same thing here. I'm just gonna take our spatula, kind of push it down just a little bit. And this is just a regular size bead gel. They do make a larger bead gel. Golden does. It's an extra large bead gel that has a little bit larger gel to it. So I just added some of that pinky color in there. It's a little hard to see. I'll take some pictures afterwards, but look at all that shimmer. And then if we go from our angle, it's still white, so it's hard to see it, but once that white dries out, you're just gonna have shimmer, you're gonna have texture, and you're gonna have a little blended metallic in the background. So, but yeah, cool, easy art piece that you can do. You could continue to add layers. You could add some plaster on here if you wanted to, just to give it a little different texture. All kinds of good stuff. So super easy to do. People will be amazed by it because they'll think they won't know how you did it. It's super easy to do. My biggest takeaways from this, 2 things. Number 1, make sure your underneath paint is really dry before you put your bead gel and stuff on, because it will pick that paint up and it will transfer to the top of the gel, the beads. And so if you want the beads to be clear, make sure it's completely dry before you put on. Number 2, make sure you put about 10% water in your bead gel when you're applying it, because that's going to allow it to go on smoother. It's not going to be quite as chunky, easier to control. And then also, chip brush will be your friend. It's easier to use than a palette knife, for me at least. It allows me to really get some great texture on here without having to have super dexterity with my palette knife. So yeah, that's it. It's pretty easy project for today. Easy finish. Lots of sparkle, lots of fun. That would be really pretty once we continue it down a little bit farther to hang on your wall. Especially once it dries, it's going to have a nice texture to it. So